What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian. And today we get to sit back and relax a little bit because the Celtics took care of business with those Disney adults and the Orlando Magic. We get to sit back, watch the Detroit Pistons and New York Knicks square off, and then wait and see if we know who we're going to be playing in round two, or do the Pistons actually force a game seven, and then we get to relax for a few more days, which is what I'm rooting for. Let's get those guys as banged up as possible, and then we can focus on round two. But let's start with the two potential matchups. The first one, the New York Knicks. The Knicks made all these moves this offseason, extending OG, trading for Karl Anthony Towns, trading for Mikal Bridges. And they did all these moves to take on one opponent and one opponent only, and that's the Boston Celtics. They wanted these long, versatile wing defenders. They've got a stretch, or to deal with Tatum and Brown, a stretch five to kind of bring the defense out a little bit. Of course, they've got Brunson, who actually just won Clutch Player of the Year, and then Josh Hart, who's got like a little Russell Westbrook in him in the way that he racks up those triple doubles. Obviously not as prolific as Russ in his heyday, but you know what I'm saying. But let's take a look at the four matchups the Celtics and the Knicks squared off during the regular season. And our Celtics were undefeated during that run. They took them at the very beginning of the season, October 22nd, to start it off. The Celtics just ran away with it, winning 132-109. Big W. That was the first time. Then they didn't play each other again until the new year. They played each other three times between February 8th and March 8th. So on February 8th, they smoked them again, almost the same score, 131-104. And then in February, the end of February, 118-105. And then the last time they played each other, April 8th, towards the end of the season, the Celtics already had the 2 seed wrapped up. But the Knicks and Celtics kind of treated this like a playoff game, and the Knicks ended up losing this one as well, 119-117. And then I live in New York, so if you were in the New York area, you would have listened to the New York media almost talking about this like it was a victory, because they've gotten spanked in the first three meetings. At the fourth one, they were like, well, it was kind of close, right? So the Knicks had yet to get a W against the Celtics this year. Now, that doesn't mean it'll be a cakewalk. The Knicks are obviously a tough team. They can put up some serious points, but the way that they've played defense, after making moves this offseason to make them a better defensive team, they still have yet to actually play any D. We're watching Cade Cunningham, who, again, this is not to disparage Cade. We'll talk about him in a second. But we're watching Cade just kind of light him up possession after possession here in this first-round matchup. I mentioned the Orlando Magic, who the Celtics took on in the first round. Obviously, a very good defensive team, and I truly believe that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum will have an easier time on the offensive end in round two against the Knicks than they did against the Orlando Magic, even though they still put up big numbers against Orlando. So the Knicks, sure, on paper, look like they are the scariest of the two teams, and honestly, I would rather play Detroit, a younger team, than I would the Knicks, but I don't think the second round is going to be as scary as you might have thought it would be back at the beginning of the season when we were looking at the East, right? If you go back to the beginning of the season, we were talking about, are the Philadelphia 76ers going to contend this year? They got their new big three, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George. Well, they are scheduled to be in the lottery. Yeah, maybe a top 5 pick. That's what they're rooting for. Yeah, the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis Dame pick and roll. They're already out of the playoffs. The Cavs ended up turning into a wagon. And then the Knicks, we thought were going to be like a top 3 team in the East. And again, they did finish 4th in the East. They're still a legit team. So I don't want to, again, say that it's going to be a cakewalk or anything like that. But I don't think it's as scary as we thought it was going to be when this season started, mainly because of the lack of defense. They're just not a defensive team, which is very, very surprising. Now, let's take a look at who the other opponent could be, and it's the Detroit Pistons here, who, again, putting up some pretty big fight. I think the most impressive thing about the Pistons team is they are not scared of the road. The two games they've won so far in this 3-2 series have both been at Madison Square Garden. They went into New York, almost won game 1, right? They had a 10-point lead, blew it down the stretch. They almost won game 1. Game 2, they did win. Then game 3, they got straight up beat. Game 4, remember that no call, Tim Hardaway Jr. in the corner almost knocked down the 3. They could have won that game. Then they go back to New York with their backs against the wall. They win game 5. So if Detroit is somehow able to have this like historic comeback after being down 3-1, kudos to them. Now, if we look at what this matchup could look like for the Celtics, sure. The defensive tenacity of a guy like Asar Thompson, very scary. Cade Cunningham has put up numbers against the Celtics all season long, but much like the New York Knicks, most of those came in L's. So the Pistons played the Knicks the Pistons played the Celtics 4 different times this season. 3 of them, though, came before 2025. So the Celtics got Detroit a lot early on in the season. So end of October, October 26th, really early into the season, the Celtics won 124-118 in Detroit. Then they played a second time in December, December 4th, day after my birthday, where they won 130-120. Also, this one was at home. Then they played each other just like 8 days later in Boston again. Celtics smoked them in this one, 123-99. But then in February 26th, the Pistons went in and won at home 117-97. And let's look at some stats from that game because this was an impressive one. We had for the Pistons to win like that handily, clearly the Celtics let go of the rope a little bit. Asar Thompson had 5 steals in this game. 5 steals. He was like a plus 15 out there. Tobias Harris gave him 16 points. Cade Cunningham gave him 21 points and 11 assists. On the Celtics side of stuff, though, Tatum was great, but there was no Jaylen Brown in this game. So Tatum had 27 points, and then Derek White had 18. No Jaylen Brown. Peyton Pritchard gave him 18 off the bench. I will say Peyton Pritchard historically has kind of cooked the Pistons, so this might be a much better matchup for him, right? Because the guards that we're looking at are guys like Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., all solid offensive performers, but on the defensive end, Peyton should be able to get free. Because again, the rim protection of Detroit is something that could cause the Celtics problem. Jalen Duren is a massive, massive man. He's not really the scary offensive threat, but they were one of the better teams at protecting the rim this past season. So maybe it makes Porzingis trying. One thing, like Karl-Anthony Towns should have the advantage over Jalen Duren in this series, and for whatever reason, they're not going to him. He's had 2 games where he scored less than 20 points, and that is why the Knicks are still playing in this first round. I do think the Celtics are a little bit smarter up here than the Knicks. And I could see a matchup against the Pistons where we really focus on Porzingis stretching him out a little bit and knocking down threes to make Duren come out. Maybe you make the Pistons play a little bit smaller. So again, the betting odds will tell you that the Celtics will actually take on the Knicks in the second round, but it does seem like the Celtics should have favorable matchups, whether it's New York or the Pistons, no matter what. I think I would rather play Detroit just because of the lack of experience. It's really just shutting down Cade, and if you can do that or limit Cade, honestly, kind of like what we did with Orlando, where like Paolo and Franz, you want to score 60 points a game, go for it, but nobody else is going to beat us. Now, Detroit, a much more talented offensive team than Orlando, but similar vibes, right? Knicks have multiple guys that can beat you, whether it's Karl-Anthony Towns, who's had some success against the Celtics this year, or Jalen Brunson in the clutch. But the biggest thing that we're focused on right now for the Boston fans during this downtime before round 2 gets underway is Jrue Holiday. And we've talked about him almost every day for the last 6 days. But Jrue Holiday's health is the most important thing heading into round 2 because you need him. You need him ready to go. Now, they could probably get by Detroit in a longer series without Jrue, maybe against the Knicks again in a longer series against Jrue. But I think if Jrue is healthy and good to go, this is no matter who they play, the Knicks or the Pistons, Celtics in 5. I think that would be my pick. But Jrue needs to be healthy because, again, you like Derek White, very solid defender. He can slow Brunson down a little bit, but you need Jrue Holiday out there. Jrue Holiday can defend 1 through 5. I don't know if you've been watching that Celtics documentary on HBO, but they talked a little bit about Jrue in it. He can defend anybody, and he needs to be healthy. He needs to be ready to go. You know who could use Jrue Holiday? The Milwaukee Bucks. So as long as he's healthy, they should roll through it. We haven't gotten an update since the series ended against Orlando. I'm sure it's all quiet on the Western Front there for Boston until they get a better idea of like when game 1 of round 2 is going to be, which I think would if the Knicks win tonight, I think it's probably Sunday. But if the Knicks lose, that goes to game 7, which I think would be on Saturday. So round 2 probably wouldn't start till Monday or Tuesday. So we still got some time. That's why Celtics fans should be Pistons fans tonight. We want this series to be stretched out. Hopefully Scott Foster is officiating it just to get the NBA to get some more games in round 1. Although I'm sure the NBA wants the Knicks to move on just because of the big market, just so we can see Ben Stiller and Tracy Morgan and Timothy Chalamet on the floor. But that's going to do it for the Jrue Holiday stuff. Hopefully he's back soon. Last thing I wanted to touch upon, The Athletic dropped a mock draft for the upcoming NBA draft, and I saw the Celtics have the 28th pick in the draft, which again, late first round. You never know what that's going to look like. They also have the 32nd pick from Washington in the second round, which is kind of fun. But according to The Athletic, right now they have him taking the Alabama 19-year-old 6'4" guard LeBaron Filone. They went on to say the teams were pretty excited about him after a breakout freshman season that didn't necessarily answer all the questions, so teams are excited to take a look at him in the pre-draft stuff. And then they went on to say, on the plus side, he's a terrific athlete who played whatever role Alabama was asked of him. So whether you needed him to step it up offensively, defensively, he could do a little bit of everything else. Sometimes he was on the ball, they said, taking ball screens, running the offense, and other times he was asked to be a secondary ball handler and attack creases when they presented themselves. So that's an interesting type of fit there in the late first round. I also think there's a world where the Celtics, move off of their picks. Again, they're going to have some offseason questions to answer, but I don't think we'll get a good understanding of what direction the Celtics are going to be going in until this postseason rounds itself out. I think if they get back to the finals, whether win or lose, if they get back to the finals, you'll see a similar core come back next season. But if they run into a big road bump in the second round or in the conference finals against either the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Indiana Pacers, I think you could see a world in which the core is shook up quite a bit because, again, new owner syndrome, spending a lot of money, and if you're not even getting to the NBA Finals with that kind of bill that you're paying, could get ugly fast. But we're not there yet. Celtics are cruising. They're in good shape. We'll find out either tonight or over the weekend who they're going to be taking on in round 2. But either way, it's Celtics in 5 from me. Appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out the Celtics Daily. If it was your first time here, do me a favor. Hit the little subscribe. Get the notification bell done. Like the video so you're ready the next time Celtics Daily drops.